Hey everybody, this is Ian O'Byrne again. We're taking a little bit of time to chat and talk about literacy, technology, education, and I'm really excited. I have a good friend of mine, April Leach, that is sitting in today. So April, can you introduce yourself? Where you come from? What is your expertise in?
Hi there, Ian. I am a boots on the ground secondary literacy coach and researcher who also teaches international baccalaureate visual arts. So it's become very interesting to me to see the code switching that's going on when I teach literacy through art and art through literacy. And it's some of the distinctions are blurring, and I was just very curious about how in this special issue of the Journal of Literacy and Technology, we might be able to invite others into this query.
Yeah. Where did we first meet? When did you and I first meet each other? Was it LRA?
It was LRA, and it was either 2012 or 13. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was a while ago, and you were doing cool
Yes.
stuff, I think, with video at that time.
Yes, demonstrations of reading comprehension through video production, because the school where I work teaches filmmaking, 3D animation, and performing arts. So these skills, the skills these kids come with are much more advanced than just throwing a camera into the hand or a phone into the hand of someone with no formal training.
That's the stuff that really got to me was the filmmaking and the 3D and the animation and how can we bring more filmmaking into what we normally do in our classrooms. So
Exactly.
one of the
Go.
things that you reference is that you and I, you asked me, and we've agreed to guest edit a themed issue. What journal is this themed issue for, and what is our general focus before we sort of like unpack the individual elements? So who are we writing this for? What's it going to be about?
Okay, well, just a little background. My friend Noemi Marin, who is in the Department of Media and Communications at Florida Atlantic University, has had this Journal of Literacy and Technology for 18 years. There's only been one special issue before this. So when she asked me if I was interested, I leaped at the chance because I think it would be a perfect way to get a little more perspective outside my circle. And when I asked you if you would be interested, you didn't seem to dally at all. So that gives us and the audience that we're looking at, I'm not entirely sure. Yes, those who are interested in literacy and technology, but Noemi, for example, is a rhetorician. And so I think that there is a broader audience out there as we all grapple with how to harness the tools now available for us to both teach and learn.
So how would you, in your mind, how would you? Because we have the call out there and all the verbiage talking about what this is all about. Like, what's our focus? What are we really trying to understand?
Um, well, I think that if we start with some of the definitions of what is media literacy, what is digital literacy, what is art, and where do they intersect, um, that's a good place to start. Now, I think of media literacy as being this overarching concept that every way we communicate, that's a medium.
Mhm.
We have uh, visual, we have text, we have sound, we have digital media, and how we are able to cross work among these, I think of as media literacy. And digital literacy is that the ability to navigate fluently, to write and read across digital media and still intertwine all of the traditional media with which we've all grown up. And then art now includes all of the 2D art, painting, pencil, paper, canvas, 3D sculpture with both hard materials and light, and now screen art. So, and these can all be figurative, they can be expressionist, they can be abstract, they can be illustrative, and they have at least one thing in common, and they're hands-on. There's a lot of work being done on embodied learning and communicating kinesthetically. And I think we're not entirely sure as educators and researchers what the affordances really can be, and how to curate them in a meaningful way.
Yeah, so I mean, media literacy, we know that our students, we know that we are, um, we drown, in media. We drown in this digital content. We have these screens are ubiquitous in our lives. They're everywhere. When you go to the gas station, there's a little TV that's basically shouting at you, with an advertisement, just pumping your gas. And and they're on our devices and our watches, and all of this content is always hitting us. And we always pick on students, in K-12 or higher ed, and say, well, they're not media literate or they're not digitally literate. But then I look at a lot of the adults that I hang out with, and question their media literacy skills, and how do we navigate and make sense of these different streams in a way that we can empower ourselves, but then also we can share with others. We can be part of this other broader discussion that happens online. So, I mean, the digital literacy side, the media literacy side makes sense to me, but really what struck me is, how do the arts play a role in that? It's like the digital lit, the media lit I get, but then the art side, how are the arts currently playing a role in that, or how should the arts play a role in the digital media lit side? What are we doing or not doing now that we should be doing?
I think there's a lot that we're not aware of yet, and that would then lead to what we might want to look at doing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those is there are a lot of subliminal messages being communicated with art, with aesthetic configurations of color and shape and form and pace and rhythm that can be found to be in advertising. It can be confounding. It can be expressive. It can be communicating. And I think if we start to acknowledge that these somewhat abstract concepts are very real in terms of how they affect us and how we can communicate with other people and our students, and globally with other cultures, that we will bring in a wider picture. I'm not entirely sure how to go about this either, because it's leading us into new paradigms, as yet unexplored, which is also what makes it so exciting.
I think the challenge is also, like in my classes, I'll have students make, this week my students are developing an autoethnography, and they're talking about themselves, and they're giving little snapshots of their life, and they are giving me a video introducing themselves. And at some point I need to assess all of that, and I need to look at it with a critical lens and say, okay, this is good and this is not good. And in my mind, what I go back to is, there's a lot of like visual or design aesthetics or visual literacy embedded in that, a lot of knowledge that I don't have. And I do this all of the time, and I can only think about my other educators and researcher friends that, do they have those design aesthetics? Do they have the language to be able to use in that? Is that part of the arts that we're not, that we don't have that background, that this is that new paradigm that we might have to unpack?
I think that's a really good question. And I think that it's, at this point, the answer would have to be partially for many teachers, nor should they. That nothing in their background has prepared them for this. And all of a sudden they're thrust into a situation where I do professional development, for example, for a faculty of 65 high school students and of 1,000 high school students. And they are, for the most part, bewildered about how to go about doing this. So there are a lot of levels here, but conceptually, this special issue will give an outlet for us to maybe start to corral some of these ideas, which could then be developed into processes that teachers could use just out of the box. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a lot of, I hope we have a lot of questions that come out of this. So, I mean, at your gut level, you know, it sounds like we'll have a lot of questions. What do you think we're going to see when we go into this intersection? So when we look at this like digital lit, media lit, and the arts, what do you think we're going to find in this intersection? What are you hoping that we find there?
Well, I can make an educated guess based on some previous research that I did. And it is that when I looked at students at the high school level who were in remedial reading classes and they were asked to create film, digital representations of reading comprehension, what I found out was they were invite all of their traditionally non-academically valued skills were invited into the process. And that could have been the cultural awareness, musicality, language, vocabulary, and they were able to bring their aesthetic sensibilities in and create this living, breathing demonstration of what they understood. And when I asked them at the end, well, do you think this would work for other classes? And they said, oh, miss, I wish this was in every class. So I think that we have a huge amount of untapped student talent that this might start to show us how to implement.
Agreed. So the question I'll get us out of here on is, and it's not really a fair question, but why is this important?
To get really real, I would have to go to the end game and say we're creating participants in democracy and on a world stage. And in order to teach with the end in mind, we're doing backwards design here. This is what we would like to create: thinkers, deep thinkers, communicators around the world, having a sense of a global humanity and being able to, from that platform, get along and communicate with everyone. So that's, I think, what we're trying to do. At least that's what excites me about it.
Yeah, I saw a recent quote that says something, and I'm going to butcher this plagiarized statement I'm about to make, but it's like, you know, a lot of these other things, these literacies and these skills and these processes tell us how to think, but it's the arts that tell us how to feel, you know, and how to like make sense of that, you know, the human side or the emotional side behind that meaning, that semiotic message. So we are asking people to think about submitting, you know, pieces for this upcoming themed issue. What sort of themed pieces are we looking? What sort of pieces are we looking for? And then also, what's the process? How do they basically get this to us?
Well, in the call, we ask for a lot. It's a very broad call. So I'm thinking that anyone from figuring out ways to assess, as you brought up earlier. I know Marcello Woolsey I think he's at University of Michigan, actually works on algorithms to try and figure out how to sift through all of this information to see what students are learning. Have they grasped what we're teaching? I think we are looking at modalities of embodied learning. We're looking at ways people have, educators have experimented with media literacy, digital literacy. What have they come up with? What have they tweaked it? Have they combined art? It's a pretty wide open call, But at the same time, it's those of us who are curious about the future of code switching and implementing these different media.
How are we defining art? You mentioned a little bit before with the 2D and stuff like that, but it's, you know, what's in and out of scope here?
I have regular discussions with my students about this, and I think art is what we receive as some sort of a communication, and the way that we can both communicate and express and search. So, and nowadays that has broadened rather than narrowed with all the digital tools and the screen art and mixing all of the above. So my definition of art, while not the Wikipedia definition of art, would have to be inclusive of humans communicating and transmediating between modes of expression.
Well said, well said. So we'll have all the links and the call and the details in the description of this video. I think the video in and of itself is a really interesting glimpse into our thinking, and then we provoke other people to watch this. And even if you don't submit for the journal, please respond and let us know what you think about what we've shared here. So we'll put all the links to this. No, go ahead.
Sorry. So email us with questions. Questions are the best way to start.
Exactly. And if you do want to submit for the journal, get in touch with us sooner rather than later, because we'd like to help you along in the process and nudge you. And I think the two of us are pretty progressive thinkers, so we'd like to nudge you and have you be more progressive and get further out there, and present some, you know, interesting ideas. April, where can people find you online? Where do you hang out on the internet?
Mostly you can get me through my Twitter, April Marie Leach, Leach. My email, Leach, the number 4 and the word literacy @gmail.com. And I'm perfectly open to texting, phone calls. My phone number is 561-213-5234.
Sounds good. So with that, we'll basically wrap it up, and please be on the lookout for the call and some future discussions, and hopefully we'll pull in a lot of authors into chats like this so we can talk through the piece before and after we publish it. So thanks a lot.